Welcome back to the Road to 1 Million podcast. Today I have on Alex Lee, owner of Rhino Films and Detailing, based out of Huntington Beach, California. This is Alex's first podcast, which for someone of his stature and success, I was really surprised. And hopefully it won't be his last, but I'm extremely grateful that Alex was able to spare up some of his time and to share some of his secrets to success and some of his experience building Rhino up to what it is today. Alex actually started doing mobile out of his car and has since built up Rhino to a multi-million-dollar detailing facility, offering paint protection film, vinyl, ceramic coatings, window tint. And so on today's episode, we talk about that journey. We talk about some of Alex's goals going forward, just a little bit more into how he thinks and how he sees his vision. Overall, really great episode, and huge thanks to Alex for coming on the podcast. Don't forget, you guys can use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, today I'm with Alex Lee. Alex, thank you for coming on the Road to 1 Million podcast.
Thanks, Josh, for having me. I'm very excited to have this first venture of interviewing. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were saying that you don't usually do this kinds of stuff, but
No, I
here we
never do.
are.
I do it for my closest friends from very brief moments, but I figure maybe it's about time after 16 years to kind of share the journey of Rhino.
That's awesome. Well, I'm honored for you to come on my podcast as one of the first ones, and talk to you a little bit more today about your story and some of your business secrets. And but I wanted to start off with just talking about how you got started. I know we were just discussing mobile detailing when both started mobile.
Mhm.
So what got you into mobile detailing?
I have a kind of a unique history coming from my background. I didn't have parents growing up, and it was kind of a difficult journey. And my sister was succumbed to a victim of a violent crime. And so I lost my business that I started when I was about 21 years old, something like that. And then I, kind of went my own way. And then I saw a pattern in what people needed, which was like mobile. And at that time, there was really no like Asian community doing any type of manual labor. It was like dry cleaners and liquor stores and stuff. But yeah, but at the time, I saw something in this industry that I felt like it was going to be something bigger than just car washing. So at the time, yeah, I borrowed a couple $1,000s. Took a really long time to borrow that money because I was depleted of my funds when I went haywire. And then, yeah, and then I just figured out at the time there wasn't really YouTube or any marketing or things like that. You had to kind of figure things out on your own. There was very, very limited resources. Uh, and I'm sure you're aware. Actually, you're 25, but at the time there was really no ceramic coating or PPF. It was kind of like an experimental who can polish the paint the most. Like rotaries, and those were the most popular things at the time. And that's kind of got what got me into it. It was survival of just like it was when you don't have any money. The best thing to do is to use your physical ability. And I was young, and I had a passion for cars. I've loved cars since I could walk, I think, and that's kind of what got me started into this journey. But I didn't know it would take me to the evolution of what detailing industry is today. But to answer your question, yeah, that's kind of what it was. It was more of needed to survive. I needed to uh, find a way to, build a future for myself during the times.
Were there any other mobile detailers at that time, and were you in Huntington Beach at that time as well?
So at the time, I actually started my grand opening at a church. It was my church that I used to go to. There was mobile detailing, but I don't think it was mobile detailing in the way that we know it today. At the time, it was more of like just labor, just kind of going around doing washes. But I actually started off differently. I collected data. I had customer information, and developed a way to get perpetual like businesses from just detailing. And like I think that's when like I started doing marketing, and I learned how to do marketing and things like that. I think that's kind of what uh, at the time was. But there was competition, but it wasn't as aggressive as today for sure. It was mostly like Craigslist ads and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, what did your marketing look like back then?
At the time, I did a lot of. If you look at like one of the videos I have on IG right now, it's like I had a little car wash picture, and I did it at a lot of churches and parking lots and stuff like that. I would like to set up. I didn't want to go to more houses. I wanted to set up a place where people would come to me so I can have more perpetual business rather than like going to places, because it was the time and the money and the effort was so much more diminishing of profit values. So that was kind of my thing at the time.
So you always knew you kind of wanted to have a shop.
I did. My goal was to save up enough money to have a first shop. Yes. And I think I got my first shop 2 years into my mobile detailing. It wasn't that big. It was like 800 square foot, but it was awesome. I lived there too. It was pretty cool. Don't tell the government that though.
Yeah, that's a good way to kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then today, now you guys have a 17,000 square foot
I give or take
facility.
it's about close to 20,000, but yeah.
And when
Yeah.
did you move into that one?
Um, so after my first shop, I moved, I think 4 or 5 times after that. But this unit, I moved here about 8.5 years ago. So yeah, it's been fun since then.
Do you guys rent or own?
We've been trying to buy, but that's something that's top secret right now. So we'll talk about that at a different podcast, maybe. But
Okay.
we do rent. We do rent right now. It's
Yeah, I feel like that's
it's politics. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the evolution is like at some point, when you've rented long enough, it's like, all right, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah. I mean, in the beginning, it was a 3 unit building, and so I took over the middle unit first, and then I took over the adjacent unit, and then I took over the other unit, and then I knocked down all the walls and made it into one big single unit. So I mean, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, so like you can see how the money was kind of being evaluated was that I had to constantly like evolve and build and invest money into making the shop into a more like a united building. And then at a certain point, it's like, okay, it's about time that we take over the building. But like I said, nothing ever really happens like the way you want it to. So we'll see what
yeah.
happens.
So when did you start doing a paint protection film, or window tinting, or which one of those came first?
Paint, like window tinting was around for so long now. Everybody has to understand that, like, that's kind of like the standard luxury thing that everybody will do. I don't think paint protection film really came to the market until maybe about 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, there was some bad experiences with the first generation of paint protection film in the past. And I think that's kind of why we died down for a little bit. But paint protection film, I think I've been doing it for about 13, maybe 14 years, like professionally. Um, but for sure, tinting was for sure first because tinting has been around for so much longer uh, than paint protection film has. And yeah, like companies like Expel and things like that, they kind of brought the whole film industry back. Because I don't know if you remember back in the days, I don't want to say the brand of the name, but it would turn yellow and crack, and everybody went back to those black leather bras that used to ruin your paint. I don't know if that's your time,
No,
but
I
it
don't
was
remember those.
yeah, it used to be like a leather, literally like a leather bag on top of your hood and your bump on your hood, and then it's supposed to protect you from rock chips, but those things would flap and it would decimate your paint. And then those disappeared, and then the paint protection film came back. And I don't know. I think the generation of the paint protection film now, I love it. It's been holding up. I did go through a series of different brands, but my go-to brand right now is Expel for sure. So, but I'm sure everybody's gonna have a beg to differ, but it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, everyone's got a different opinion on that, but I think that you hear good and bad about every brand, really.
It doesn't matter. I think like everybody can stick to their own brand. I'm sure they have their loyalty. Ultimately, it comes down to like customer service, right? Like I've heard some of your podcasts too, and it comes down to like customer service. Like if the paint, I mean, the film and stuff like that, it's gonna have bad days and good days. I mean, manufacturers gonna have quality control issues, but it has to come down to your relationship with your customers, right? Like if something bad happens, how are you gonna take care of it? And in this industry, like we see these small shops come and go, and they think it's easy money, it's very lucrative, but it's the longevity of the business that's going to help consumers stay with your brand, because like it's not you representing a brand, it's you guys representing each other. So like if I support a brand like Expel and I do have issues, I mean I want the Expel to support me, and then I want to be able to support my customers. It's like a mutual thing. So like I'm not going to downplay on any brands or manufacturers. It comes down to like the sole relationship with you and the customers, in my opinion. So that's what I would probably stray to.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have problems with the film, that Expel will make it right, and knowing
Yeah.
that you have that relationship, that means a lot.
Correct. I've worked with like all the film brands out there, and there's gonna be mishaps. So it's nobody's fault. I mean, it happens. Human error. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. We recently went through window tint training, and in our training, we had uh, some of the film was it was just curling really bad at the end,
Hmm.
um, which our trainer said was not normal, and so they overnighted film to our training.
Seems like a glue issue.
Yeah, maybe it was. I guess they
Yeah,
never really figured out what it was. I should reach back out and try to
it could be a
figure out
glue
what that
issue
was.
or overheating. So tinting's gonna take you a long time to adjust every brand of tint and the material, different time to shrink and stuff. So that's something that I can't really say unless I used it. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's tricky. I think tinting's a lot more trickier than PPF.
you think so?
Yeah, it's just yeah, there's just so much more. Yeah, PPF, like once you figure out the finesse of like how to stretch the film, you can kind of get it down. But tinting, like there's so many different material. Like if we're using PPF, for instance, like we'll have one clear PPF, but when we offer a line of 10, we'll offer like carbon film and ceramic film, and they shrink differently. So it's kind of it's material is generally different. So and then the contour of shrinking and the way the glasses are like designed and stuff, you have to adapt to every scenario. So I think it's a little bit more trickier in my opinion.
So when you were adding these new services, did you take it upon yourself to learn how to do all of them, or did you start hiring people?
Don't get me wrong, I'm not the best tinter, but as far as everything else goes, I have to learn it myself. I think as an owner and operator of a company, you have to be the master of like everything that you do. You can't tell people what to do, especially at a young age. If you start a business, you cannot tell people what to do unless you know how to show it, like dominantly. So yes, as far as when it came to like ceramic coating and PPFing, like I took the classes, I took the lessons, did my due diligence to do all the researches and stuff. So I highly recommend for sure. Yeah, I had to learn everything on my own.
Hmm.
And at the time, there was no, like I said, there was no YouTube at the time, so it was just all hands on. I ruined a lot of my friends' cars.
Those are good people to ruin cars for, though,
Yeah, but
if
they
they're good
trusted me.
friends.
We all figured it out one day.
That's the step that we're on right now. Lots of friends, family.
It's
Um,
best though. You gotta mess around with it. You cannot learn something unless you mess up. Once you mess up, then you'll know not to do it again. But you can't learn something on YouTube and be like, okay, I'm never gonna do that. So yeah,
yeah,
you gotta be able to break cold like sweats and be like, oh crap, I messed up, and then you'll never do that again.
yeah. It's interesting nowadays. Like there's a blueprint for us younger detailers, um, which it seems to be starting off mobile. You get your shop, and then you kind of evolve to offering protection services with that are higher tickets, right? PPF,
Correct.
window tinting, ceramic coatings.
Correct.
But back whenever you were starting, it sounds like that didn't exist. There wasn't a blueprint yet. Like you were kind of a part of the initial group that discovered, the evolution of the detailing business.
Yeah, I could say that. Like, it's not just me. I have a lot of colleagues that's still in the industry that we're really close friends with. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be pioneers of this industry, right? But I do believe that's what a lot of these newer generations is doing. Mobile detailing always is the most affordable, and these days, like, there's so many. Like, I've seen a lot of kids start shops in their garage and stuff. So it's a very, like I said, it's a very lucrative industry to get in. Um, but yeah, back in the days, it was definitely different. I would say it was a lot more fun because it was curiosity that kind of played the game. I'm surprised vinyl wrap is still around, considering how like how it doesn't very last very long. So like this industry is kind of fun. Like you got to understand like the commodity that people want. There's like paint protection film, where it's a more of a protective uh, product that people will invest into a long term. And far as like vinyl wrap will be more of like I don't care about the money kind of an industry where you can kind of people just want to do that. And the window tinting obviously it's associated by the skin cancer association, and so there's like you got to understand what each product will provide to the customers, and then you got to adapt to it. You can do, there was a lot of other products. There was like spray on vinyls, there was like spray on PPF, and all of those things failed. I mean, you could have invested into those, but you got to pick and choose which way you think the industry is going to go, and kind of go with your gut and see what you would want on your car, and kind of go that way. And that's how that it seems like that's how the industry evolves from then
Hmm.
and now.
Hmm. Yeah. So whenever these new services started coming out, it just kind of felt natural for you to add them. It felt right. It was something that I'm sure that you kind of got your hands on whenever they were first coming out, and I'm sure you got your hands on some things that you probably didn't like.
Yeah, we messed around with it. Like one thing was like ceramic coating blew up for a long time. Um, but there's a lot of reputation about ceramic coating of how that works. It's like, a lot of people call it like glorified wax and stuff. But when I first got my hands on PPF, it's like, okay, I see, like, because I couldn't personally, in a business, you have to find out what the consumer wants and how to solve the problem, right? And so when PPF, when I started messing around with it, I was like, hey, dude, like, I don't want rock chips on my car. Like, I think it's gonna work. And at the time, the PPF wasn't as malleable as it was these days. Um, but yeah, like it's like, okay, I think I can push this, and I think I can promise the customers more of a better result. Because ceramic coating, I can only promise so much. It's like, okay, like you're still gonna get swirls and things like that. But then when I offer PPF, it's like, okay, like it's a sacrificial layer. We can pull the film off and replace it. Ceramic coating is not necessarily like that. So when that came out, I even changed my company's name from Rhino Custom Detailing to Rhino Films and Detailing at that time because I believed in that product so much. So and I kept pushing it, and luckily I got into the industry, early enough for people to catch on that, like, we're not a detail company anymore, that we're doing more film. So that's kind of like how the evolution of my company went about.
Hmm. Do you guys still offer detailing today?
Oh yeah, 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 for sure. But we don't market detailing because everybody knows we did the detailing because like we've just been doing detailing for so long. But it's not something that we push. It's not sustainable as far as profitability goes in the company, just because it's a seasonal kind of a business. So because the business dips too much, affecting towards weather and things like that. So in order to be able to sustain like such a high level of like money coming in and out, you have to be able to offer something that it's relatively relatable to everybody throughout the year. So detailing, we offer it. We do mini detailing, custom detailing, paint correction, and then we'll top it off with coating. But if you've been in the detailing industry for a very long time, you know that like the detailing business, it tapers off so rapidly during like the winter time and stuff. Especially if you're not in California. I mean, we have like 70% of like clear weather here, but even the 30% will it'll be detrimental to your business if you're having no income for 3 months. So you can understand how that would go in like more of like Central America, like Central U.S. and things like that, East Coast. So in order to fill those gaps, you have to offer services that's going to fill in those gaps. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and
Yeah, for sure.
PPF and coatings and tint seem to be a little bit more consistent.
And then when you're slow, you can do. I mean, if you're talented to offer a lot of things, we don't offer like a lot of things as far as our website and our commercial like marketing goes. But like if you get to know us as a person, like customer, we become friends, then you know that we offer a lot more services. And another good thing that I would point out to any fellow listeners, like make partnership and network with like your local shops, your like adjacent shops, like body shops and stuff like that, and then work in tandem. Like everything should be supported. I know a lot of these kids these days, they kind of downplay each other and they always try to think that they're the best. But it's always good to have a good network of people that could support you and send out each other work. I think that I would highly value that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Even other like detailers, like there might be someone that has a specialty to some extent that you don't have, or if you're just too busy and someone needs to get in last minute, you could
Yeah,
always send that
sure.
customer to. Yep.
It goes back and forth, and just at the end of the day, make the customer happy. So
Yeah.
you just
Yeah,
never
there's
know.
been customers that like I wanted to take on, but they wanted like perfection. And like at the time when we were mobile, I knew that we couldn't offer that. And
Mhm.
so we would send them to like a shop detailer.
Mhm.
But then like later they would come back to us just because they remembered we were honest.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Honesty and transparency is very, very big part of this business. Like, don't overpromise. Like, under promise and then over deliver. That's my number one rule.
Hmm. Now it's interesting because you guys have so many reviews on Yelp, but that seems to be like a Cali thing because um, we've built up most of our reviews on Google, and most of the other people I've had on that are like in other cities, they have most of their reviews on Google and don't really care about Yelp. But the only other person I've had on from California, which was Daniel from Dynamic Detailing,
Mhm.
um, he also has a ton of Yelp reviews. So,
Mhm.
do you guys get a lot of business from Yelp?
Uh, honestly, like I think Yelp, we have a lot of reviews because we've been on Yelp since like 2008, so it accumulated over time. And Google, I mean, I think people go on Yelp and Google reviews as like a reference point. But at the end of the day, when you're coming to a business to spend like $10,000, $15,000 to do a job, um, I think that's just a reference point. So I can't tell you that if Yelp and Google can directly relate to how our businesses come. But most of our business, right, I would say like 80% is referrals. And then when you get referred to, like when somebody refers a client to me, they'll go online and then they'll check our reviews and be like, okay, they're relevant. Does that make any sense? But if you're
Mhm.
gonna go on Yelp to look for it, because like everybody on Yelp these days all have 5 stars. So it's kind of like I can't say that Yelp is predominantly like a good like a customer lead point, but it's a good reference point for customer to look at. But as far as your reputation goes, you'll like if your friend is really picky and he refers you to your company, then it's like, okay, this guy's pretty good. I think that's more of a legitimate referral or business interaction rather than like reviews these days because there's so much reviews and there's like I've seen like smaller shops that's been around for like 2 years that has like 1,000 reviews, and so I don't know if that's going to be more relevant. And I can't I don't think that Yelp and Google is really directed like to our company for beneficial rather than more of a referral. Sorry, I oversay things a lot.
No, you're good. So that's always been that way. It's always been 80% referral.
Hmm. Yeah, that's probably why I told you like I know before this thing recorded, I told you like we're not really like prominent in like social media, things like that.
Yeah.
We've just started like focusing on it like this year, kind of trying to maybe try to get some more younger generation demographics. Um, but yeah, I don't think reviews and stuff had like big correlation to our business and success. I mean, it's a big part of it as far as reference goes, but I don't think it was a big part of it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So you guys have like some kind of referral program, or how do you guys, other than doing a great job for the client, and setting yourself apart from the competition, how else do you guys encourage referrals?
I keep my employees very happy, and we make sure that we remember all of our clients' names by their first name. That's pretty much it. Yeah, but we don't have any referral programs. Like I think referral programs it can kind of get out of hand. Um, like it can go to a point where like if you set out a referral program too much, then people will kind of like abuse that. And we've had that before, where we did one time where we sent out like a news like a postcard to like referral programs like 5% discount for referral or like commission, but then
Mhm.
it becomes an issue with like 1099 and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. We keep our company very like tight knit. Like I don't know what's I can't really like specify like what's special about our company rather than like our personability. Like if you come to our shop, like you'll get if you've been here before once, you'll get greeted like a family. And then number two is that like if you pull up in a Civic, and then like when we're taking care of you, and then like, you pull up in a Bugatti, like we're not gonna put the Civic aside and take care of the Bugatti. We'll make sure that everybody gets handled like in a specific manner, like personability. Like there's no profiling or anything like that of any nature. And I think that's kind of what makes it very like relatable to our company. And a lot of the times, the person with the Civic was their wife's car, and they tested us out, and then they own a Bugatti. You know, like it's kind of like that. So, like, I think just doing things like that, like humanly, and like just human nature, and being like, like grateful for the work that comes in. I think that's kind of what sets Rhino apart, rather than the marketing and things like that. It's like if you come to us, you're gonna understand, like, okay, this place is cool. It's really relaxing. They take care of their cars. Like, so I think that's gonna be the foundation of a long, sustainable business rather than those gimmicks and Instagrams and those viral videos and stuff like that. Because you can't sustain it. Like if you get 10 million calls a day, you can't take care of those customers like very well. So like just keep it growing slowly, steady, and then once you build up that clientele, then I think you have a fail-safe business.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because you guys are very successful, and you remind me of. Do you know Grant Menard?
I'm not really good with names and when it comes to competition. Only clients.
Well, he's on the East Coast,
East
so
Coast. I know
completely
East
opposite
Coast,
side.
not because I'm not really on social media too much. I just know like a couple of companies out there. I don't pay attention to anything in this industry. I only pay attention to my company. That's kind of one
Yeah.
thing I like to be stress free.
Well, I think that's a good way to be. But anyway, just to finish my point was that Grant, I mean, he's got a very successful company too, and he's same way. It's like I've never marketed, I've never spent a dollar on advertising. It's just about like building a great experience for my customers and treating them like family, and then they refer me.
That's I respect them already for that. Yeah, it's a very good business model, and I think like this generation of that kind of business ethics is kind of disappearing. So I want to kind of stay true to that roots. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like right now, like I see a lot of the new shops kind of like just trying to blow up on social media and stuff. But like, yeah, like sometimes I joke around to my clients, like, I think we're like the last generation of like the hospitality business, like where we're actually like physically working and stuff. Everybody wants this easy way out. I get like 20 inbounds a day, like, oh, do you want to do a social media blow up? Do you want to do a social media blow up? It's like, dude, get off your butt and go out and do some physical work and then tell me, and then go into the detailing world and then try to market to me rather than, just trying to always bombard me with these social media tactics. So I like Grant then. He's a cool guy. I'd like to meet him one day.
Yeah, I think you guys would get along well.
Yeah.
Um, what other ways do you guys try to? I know you said you try to be really personable, and say the client by their name, which I think that they say that the best thing any person likes to hear is their own name. It's their favorite thing to hear. So there's definitely a lot to be said about that. But do you guys have any other ways that you guys try to build up that experience from the start when they call in to like when they pick up the vehicle?
I think one thing that a lot of clients seek out me and my partner Luis is that like we're very educated. Like as far as like when we say stuff, we don't say it out of our butts. You have to be very informed. So one thing is like you can get referred to it, but if you can't be on the same conversation level as a client, it's like every client will be a specific fan of like a genre of a vehicle. So if like a client comes in with the vehicle like a Porsche, he'll know all about the Porsche. And then if a client comes with the Lambo, he'll know nothing about the Porsche. It's kind of weird that way. So in order for you to own a shop that's like very sustainable and to succeed, you have to be very knowledgeable. So they want to meet a shop owner that's very knowledgeable. So like if you ask a question, I can hold a topic. And so when to answer your question is like, oh, besides just referral program, like what makes it that we can retain a client is that when the customer comes and you can wow them with your information, that's one way to retain a customer like 100%. So like, and I know like a lot of the clients don't know 100% of their things, and if I'm talking out of my butt, they'll catch on right away. So I would tell you like earlier I said like just be transparent. If you don't know, just say you don't know. But number two, how to get to get a good reputation and good personability with the client that's been referred to you is that you have to be knowledgeable and you have to not talk out of your ASS. Uh, and then another thing is like I don't mind like local marketing. Huntington Beach is a very tight knit area where we have a very small demographic here, and so like I don't I encourage you to like if you are a small tight knit area, you can do like support. I do a lot of charities and sponsors, so like I'll support all the local schools, the police departments, the fire departments, and those are kind of ways to get your community kind of put together in a selfless way. Does that make any sense? Rather than
Mm-hmm.
like mass media marketing, like sponsors. Like if you're gonna spend $10,000 on Instagram and it's gonna target towards somebody in New York, it makes no sense. So might as well just target something that's local to you and that is more personable to that. That depends. Like if I'm selling a product, I can advertise like nationally and globally, but I'm selling a service that's going to be locally nearby. So I like to target my marketing towards nearby sponsors, not by marketing, but showing them that I care by donating to volleyball teams and basketball teams and things like that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, almost like more like branding than marketing.
Yeah, branding and keeping the family tight, like locally. Because it depends on what you're selling. We're selling a service, so you want to keep the demographics nearby you, rather than if I'm selling a product, then I can go globally. So
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys do like car shows and like meets like that?
we had our first open house grand opening last year in May.
A few
So
years later.
15 years late. It was a big turnout. So it was a big turnout. It was fun, but I think we're gonna have that more locally. Like I said, like yeah, it's just we don't really pay attention too much to marketing. We like to focus on the work. So, but yeah, did have our first one. Honestly, you can probably see it on our Instagram page. It's called like a Spring Fest open house or something like that. We had one like last year in May. We might have one again in May this year.
Hmm. Who was your first big hire that you made? And when did you make that hire?
Big hire.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I went through a lot of employees. Probably in the 15 years, I probably went through maybe about 300 employees. But I would love to introduce you. He's not here, unfortunately, but his name is Luis. He was my first hire, I think back in like 2011. And he worked really hard, like to the point where it was like I want to go home and he wanted to stay. But he's my partner now. I gave him a big share of the company, and he's a GM at Rhino. And if you know Rhino and you don't know Luis, then you probably never been to Rhino. That's how big of a hire he was. But other than that, like everything else comes and goes. Like in the beginning, you're gonna like when you first start the business, you're gonna get attachment to the employees. But one thing I encourage to the new employees. Like you cannot get an attachment with your employees. Business is business. So I learned that the hard way. Um, but yeah, to answer your question, the first big hire would be Luis, and he's probably my last big hire. Other than that, everybody else is just kind of they're part of my team. If you're with my company, then I love you. If you're not, I don't. It's not like I don't love you anymore, but you just have to understand that balance. That business is business.
Yeah.
And
How many guys do you have on your team right now?
right now, we fluctuate. We fluctuate from like 10 to 15, and then we have a like we have we have floaters like 1099, which you're gonna end up doing a lot if you get into the PPF business. There's a lot of floaters for PPF, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you think Luis is more of a is you or Luis more of like the visionary of the business?
I think I'm the CEO as a visionary, and then Luis is like the concept grabber, so he can execute. So that's that. I think that relationship is very important when it comes to partnership. Is that you can't be on different pages. You have to be able to. I can be able to construct an image of where we're going to go, and then he will be able to execute where we need to go. So and then he has to be able to. We have to be able to cipher that down to the employees as well. But when you get a business to scale, to $2-3 million a year, you can't like you have to have a system in place, and then you have to put to execute it, and then that plan has to be more systematical rather than like trying to execute it all the time. Does that make any sense? So like
Yep.
you have to have. If I say like, okay, this year we're gonna focus more solely on color PPF because vinyl wrap's gonna phase out. I can't like tell my employees that. I can have a conversation with my partners and my GM, and then we're gonna have to execute a plan, and then we're gonna have to make that so that the employees doesn't know that that plan is even being executed. It's just they're just gonna install. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm reading a book right now. You might have heard of it, Traction.
I haven't read that one yet.
It's there's
I'll audio,
another one. What was that?
I'll audible it later today.
Do you like to listen to audiobooks?
Yeah, because it makes me go to sleep.
Really? Well, I'm not sure how much you're retaining if you're getting ready to go to sleep listening to it.
It's subliminal. I'm sure it's in there somewhere, and one of these
Yeah.
days it'll come up.
That's funny. I
Yeah.
think that there's something to that, to be honest.
Hmm. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this
There's a
book
couple
talks a
books.
lot about systems and processes and getting all that um, ironed out. And then the Rocket Fuel is like its sister book by the same author,
Hmm.
and it talks about having an integrator and a visionary in your business.
Hmm.
And it talks about like every successful business ever that scales has a visionary,
Hmm.
which sounds like yourself, and then integrator who kind of takes the concepts and
And
just
execute it.
and executes it. Yep.
I think the CEO's job is to be a visionary. That's what CEOs do. So you have to be able to predict where the company is going to go in the next 5-10 years. And when I first did this, when I was talking to Luis back in the days, like I mentioned, like when he started with me in 2011, when I introduced ceramic coating, which was an opticoat at the time, he was like, "Why the hell would we do ceramic coating? Like, do we do it once and we never get paid?" But I told him like, "No, it's not that. There's maintenance and things like that." So obviously that took off. And then when ceramic coating started dying out, I was like, "Amigo, we got to start doing PPF." And he's like, "Why would we do PPF? Then we're not gonna have any more details." Like, dude, this is the future of the industry. So like, as the leader of the company, you have to take these bold movements and invest all of your life savings to put into an idea that you trust and firmly believe without any doubt, to make sure that everybody in the company has no doubt either. Because when the company doubts you, that's when the company fails, because then they'll start doing bad mouthing and stuff like that. So you have to have a visionary, which is the CEO's job. You have to have an executioner that has to be able to perform these jobs. And then you have to have a good team that's going to follow the steps that you created in the order you created it, so that the work that you provide doesn't F up. And then at the end result, the customers are satisfied with all of those steps that's provided. So but yes, you do have, and a lot of the things that I've seen people do is they talk a lot, but they don't invest their own money in it. So that's when you know when the CEO is serious or not. If he talks all this crap and he doesn't invest all of his money into the idea, then you know he's all full of crap. So for
Mhm.
sure, I think the book that you're reading is probably on point as far as being creative. But then being creative and investing your money into it is two totally different things, and a lot of people don't seem to do that. So I encourage them that if you do believe in an idea, you have to put your money where your mouth is. I think that's where that saying comes from.
Yeah. Well, and at first, like whenever you don't have the money to hire someone, like Luis, I mean, you either have to give up equity or you have to just do it all yourself. And so I think a lot of people, you know, and that's what the book Rocket Fuel talks about. Is a lot of people, everyone is either a visionary or an integrator, but you can't be both well. But a
No.
lot of the times at first, you have to be both.
In the beginning, yeah, you have to. I mean, that's why I told you I lived at the shop, and I had, I used to like when I used to live at the shop, I would redecorate the shop 24 hours a day. I wouldn't sleep. I mean, being young is, I think, the biggest blessing. And if you're in your 20s and your back's fine, you got to do whatever it takes. If you have an idea, I don't sit on it. I just go and do it. Um, but yeah, this industry, you have to be a visionary because the competition is so stiff these days. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm. Where do you see the industry going 5 years from now?
I actually see a big, I see a big promise in this industry. I think if you look back like 25 years ago, like tinting, for instance, wasn't a very big thing. Like people didn't really care about tinting. Now, if you think about it, like I would say, like, 7 out of 10 people you talk to, they know what tint is. And when the product proves itself right over the course of time, and it's like accepted by the Tint Cancer Association, and things like that are proven, it's the product sells itself. So as far as PPF goes, I think it's the same thing. Like it's a proven product. We've had some bad batches and bad reps here and there, but overall, when I meet an exotic owner, the first thing that they do, besides even an exhaust, is to do PPF. So we know that people are getting more inclined to believing in this product. So, but now that you see like even Tesla like endorsing it, and like Ford and all these manufacturers start to endorse these products, I see it becoming more of a standard, kind of like how tint is going to become, has become. I see PPF being more of a standard product in the near future. So the next 5, 10 years, I think if you're a good installer, and if you believe in your products and you can be sustainable, I feel like the industry is going to continue to keep growing. And so that's what I see. As far as detailing goes, detailing is not going to go anywhere. Everybody loves their car, but they're getting older, and I have a lot of clients who are fanatics, but their back hurts, dude. So they still call me up to get their car detailed. So so detailing is just going to be kind of like a gap filler product. Tint is not going to go anywhere. Vinyl wrap is a very lucrative thing, but it's getting switched over with color PPF. Color PPF still has a little bit of work to do, as far as like the installation ability and the time and profit margin and stuff like that. But it's adapting. I think the manufacturers are listening to the customers and demands, and it's going to go that direction. And as long as you keep your ears open, I don't see this industry going anywhere but up in the next 10 years.
Mhm. So paint protection film is definitely on the up still.
Yes, for sure. I think everybody knows that. If you look at the industry, like last year, I go to SEMA every year. Last year, I would say about 50, 60% predominantly was all new paint protection film booths, because everybody sees the same thing that we see. They want to be in that market. So, but there's like the top dogs, like Expel, Steck, Lumar, these guys, Ultra Fit. These guys are all climbing up the ladder. But like I said, there's so much room. There's like so many cars in this world. It doesn't have to be mean. Nobody has to be mean to each other. Everybody just get along. There's a market
Yeah.
share for everybody. So, and
How
these
much of
people
a
need.
how much does
Mhm.
ceramic coatings play into your business?
I would say less than like 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer. I don't like selling products I'm not a big fan of. Um, I don't get me wrong. I love ceramic coating. I think it was a very big stepping stone for this industry. But uh, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that is involved in order for the warranty and stuff to stay valid. So there's a lot of question marks that's there. Ceramic coating, I love it for as far as like gloss goes and things like that. But as far as like maintenance goes, I don't think it's the best thing. I don't really recommend it to my clients, to be honest. Sorry, ceramic companies. But I know most ceramic companies, they jumped over to PPF, so they know what I'm talking about.
There's just too many factors that most clients have a hard time with dealing with the upkeep of it, so that they can actually get the five,
five,
3, 8
five,
years out of it.
8 years. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And then there's a lot of anomalies that come to it too. Like let's say they go to a car wash and then they spill something and they polish it, the coating's off, and you have to bring it in every year for maintenance. I mean, like if you, I like I if you use a really high quality polymer sealant, I've seen it last very well for 6 to 8 months. High gloss, nice surface retention, good hydrophobic. And then if you're doing that every 6 to 8 months, kind of counter offsets like getting a ceramic coating done and then bringing it in for annual maintenance that costs the same as what we charge for mini detail. So it's like, to be transparent, I like to tell my clients that, like, oh, okay, you can pay $1,800 for a ceramic coating, but you still have to bring it to me every year and then pay me $300 for me to maintain it. It's kind of like, it's not justifiable for me to tell the client that. Um, but at PPF, it's like, okay, just throw it on. You come in for a follow up. We make sure everything's sealed, and then you're good for 10 years. Just don't do anything stupid. And then like the ceramic coating had a bad reference for a long time, where like people started neglecting their vehicle because they're like, oh, I have a ceramic coated. It's like a diamond protection. It's like, it's not like that, you know. So, and then dealerships off sell it like as like a protection, and that gave it a bad name as well, like, you know, with permaplate and all this stuff. And so for that reason and that reason alone, I'm not saying the ceramic coating is bad as a product. I think it's a great product, but the way it's been like referred to in the industry, I feel like they kind of oversold it, and then it gives a bad reputation to the customers that believed in it so much more than what it was. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. We always ask our clients now
Yeah.
um, a few questions, like one of which is like, do you hand wash your car?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's the most important question to ask someone that's interested in a coating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
because maybe you don't see that as much in Cali. Like maybe most of the people that are reaching out to you all hand wash their car, but we see a lot of people reaching out about ceramic coatings that go through the car wash.
Yeah. Yeah. So coating wise, if a client wants it, we'll do it. We do coating on top of PPF as well. I mean, it's a good topper coater. There's like a little, you know, like there's a little controversy between that, like as far as putting like a 9H coating on top of uh, a malleable film. It's going to kind of get rid of this the self healing tendencies. So there's kind of like a catch 22 on that. We're still studying that right now. But as far as the coating goes, if the client, like for Tesla, for instance, we do recommend it. Tesla paints, we all know universally that it's not the best paint out in the world. Most of them that are made in California, we have the VOC compliant. So I know that, you know, a lot of the clients like it coated. It does give a nice gloss and stuff, but yeah, like at that point, if you're gonna pay that much, there's alternative options. But I'm not talking down on the ceramic coating, but I think that the customer should be more educated when the shops sell them the ceramic coatings, because they overpromise and then like the customers get a bad rep, a bad like info on it, and it's not good news. Yeah.
Now, have you tried out any of these other coatings that they claim some of these claim to be like more just like different chemical makeups? Whether it's I've heard some that claim to actually um, give a little bit so that they can actually prevent some kind of like impact, um, and
I
then
mean,
other ones that
there's
like actually prevent keying and stuff like that.
no, I don't think there's anything like that right now because, like, you know, most of the coatings are rated at 9H. I think that's the highest you can get as tensile strength goes. I've seen some advertised as 10H and 11H, which I don't doesn't make any sense to me. We have like graphene, we have SiO2, like quartz and things like that. But it's a surface tension. Even PPF is self healing, but you can still key it. As far as like we did have some ceramic coating at one point. There's a SiO2 version where it's like self healing, but there was issues with that too, where there was a memory issue. Like for instance, if you remember like the GTRs and Nissan, they used to have self healing paint back in the days. I don't know if you remember,
No.
but you couldn't polish those guys because when you polish them, if you get scratched at a certain temperature, the scratches would stay and it would member as a scratch. So if you polished the self healing paint, it would go back to the scratch memory. So that's kind of like the drawback that we have with self healing coating too. So, and if you do layer the paint with the ceramic coating that's self healing or key resistant, I would say that's kind of almost impossible. It's a physical surface, and the key is a physical surface. You can key a PPF. You're gonna be able to key anything with ceramic coating, and
Hmm.
the ceramic coating shouldn't be more than like a UV protection to save the pigment and have high gloss, but it's not going to have anything more offer than those two things, in my opinion, rather than like them claiming to be like self healing or like it could be scratch resistance. That's what the liability is.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think like UV resistance, hydrophobic, that's fine, and then high gloss. I think those are the three beneficial things that a ceramic coating could offer. But anything other than that, I think it's kind of a load of crap in my opinion. I've tried every single ceramic coating out there, and you can scratch all of them.
Have you tried
No matter
Icon
how many
Rock
layers you
Layer?
apply. I'm sorry.
Have you tried Icon Rock Layer?
No, I'm not going to say anything about that company. I have had a couple friends who it almost ruined their companies by using their products. Um, it's impossible to remove if you mess up. And I don't know. I'm not even going to say anything about that company. I don't think anything that permanent should be existing in this market, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Yeah. There's always new stuff like that coming out, and
Yeah.
someone's trying to sell it, and it's really hard to know like whether or not this stuff is like some of this stuff is like the new, something great, or if it's just kind of snake oil to some extent.
I'm not going to say any names, but one of my colleagues used that product. It almost sounded like almost like a multi-level marketing product, but he installed it, and they had to go through insurance, and that he had to pay like 15 grand to get that product off, and pretty much have to get the whole car repainted. That was another like 30 grand on top. So I don't know.
Hmm.
Rock clear, good for you. You guys probably sold a lot of stuff. Don't tag me on it.
Okay, fair enough. I'm
Whatever.
curious out of the
Props to
10 to
them.
15. Yeah, I'm curious out of your 10 to 15 guys. How many? What are their roles? Each of their roles.
So I keep a pretty strict policy in mind. If you are a PPF installer, you're a PPF installer. If you're a detailer, you're a detailer. Um, when it is slow, I do train everybody to do dabble in other things. I mean, you have to be able to dabble around. But yeah, if you're a PPF installer, you're a PPF installer, and then yeah, we don't make you multitask on anything. If you're a dismantler, you're a dismantler. If you're specializing in wheels, you do wheels. So you have to keep your employees like specific directive. If you make them jump ship like from time to time, then there's no specialty when it comes to your services. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if you go to Lamborghini, like if a guy installs wheels or makes wheels, he's only gonna make wheels. But if he makes wheels and windshields, the two products are not gonna be the best.
Yeah. Do you guys have a sales guy or gal?
Nope. You're talking to
You're talking. I'm talking to him.
him.
You are the
Yeah.
sales guy.
Me and Luis, yeah, yeah. We have a front desk office manager, but yeah, like we don't call it a sales team because nobody will call in to like, and then she's not gonna like push a sales. People are gonna call in to get something done. That's the beauty of like the business repertoire that I've been teaching you about this whole
Mhm.
time. It's like when you get a solid referral, they're calling in to get a service. They're not calling in for my sales team to sell you something, So
Sure. So do you handle the calls or does she handle the calls?
no, I don't handle the calls. She handles the calls.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't like to be on phones or calls anymore. But I get thousands of text messages every day, so I'm trying to get rid of my phone number.
Gotcha. So what does your day to day in the business look like? I know you said that, what was it, 7 years ago or 6 years ago that you kind of took yourself out of the business?
Well, my day to day business is to make sure my daughters grow up well. Um, so that's kind of it. And then I go into the shop. I'm at the shop mostly, but I'm actually more upstairs in my office, my private office, because when I am downstairs, I can't get really of the work done because I can have a conversation with my client for like 2 hours and then my whole day goes by. So I love that. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, my job is more of logistics. I make sure that everything's paid for. All of my relationships with all of our corporate accounts are all up to date and things like that.
Hmm. You guys have several corporate accounts?
We do, but I'll keep that private for now. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know you said that like a big thing for you is like being a visionary too, and then Louise kind of helps to implement a lot of that stuff. So I'm curious for like 2025, like what kinds of things are you guys trying to implement? I know you mentioned something about colored PPF.
Mhm.
Is that a big thing for you guys that you're pushing this year?
I think color PPF is going to have a big role in the future. Vinyl wrap has been around as a commodity for a long period of time, but for instance, like for let's say Tesla. Tesla is probably one of the big market share for color change PPF or PPF in general. And Tesla, they have a bad repertoire right now, but they don't release too many models with different colors, right? Like for instance, for like Cybertrucks, there's like one color. So PPF is going to go that direction. For us as Rhino, I'm actually pulling my retail division to focus solely on service. I think retail is going to be too easily replicatable in the future. So I actually am pulling that off, and I'm having I'm getting rid of all my inventory. I want to focus solely on services because the service industry is dying out in the world because like nobody wants to work anymore. I know you're very, you're 25 and stuff, but people don't want to work. They don't want to do hard labor. They think there's easy money out. I mean, so I want to solely invest the rest of our Rhino time to have a dedicated like team of professionals that can provide services, hard labor services until it's done. And so PPF, I think it's a good option. I PPF, I've tested it out. If you see one of my test cars, I actually have a Model 3 that has half vinyl and half color PPF, and I drive that crap around like an idiot all the time. But I tested it out, and the validity is the PPF works a lot better than vinyl. The vinyl one has been 2 years, it's having water spots. The PPF has been working, and I keep that car at my shop just to prove a point, because I don't believe in like online reputations and things like that. So I think that has a big future ahead. PPF, I think we still have a little bit more further to go. There's companies that has like hydrophobic films, and there's companies that's been tested to be longer, but it's not as hydrophobic. So those are things that I think those manufacturers are going to balance out in the future as well. So with those things combined, I think there's going to be a lot more to do. So for Rhinos, the next 2025 for 2025, we're actually focusing solely on services, and we're actually getting into marine as well. We're working with a company called Expel that because we're literally half a mile from the beach, and we've had extensive experiences with boats. I'm a boat owner myself, and so I think marine is going to be a big thing. I think aviation is going to be a big thing in the future, and then so there's a lot of like stepping stones to go to, and there's a lot of like opportunities to be chased. But this year, I'm actually like cleaning up my company and focusing solely on just services. If that answers your question.
Yeah, I saw you guys sell products. That's what you meant by your retail side, but you guys are getting
Yeah,
rid of all that.
all of it. Yeah, it's just it's too hard to compete with Amazon. I catch myself ordering stuff on Amazon more than I catch myself buying stuff in my own shop. So
Was that pretty big? Like people buying stuff from your own shop there for a while?
at one point, it was actually really fun. At one point, it was fun, but like during COVID was kind of a detrimental time. A lot of like half of my stuff was made in Asia, half of my stuff was made in the U.S. The container prices went up, so there was a lot of like legislative issues and things that happened. But at one point, yeah, it was fun. I mean, um, but now it's not. There's no profit margin in it. It's like it's like Amazon made everything too convenient, so I don't think it's a good market to do it anymore. I mean, if I was a manufacturer, I'm sure it'll be fun, but
Hmm.
I do make my own chemicals for like small car care stuff for my clients. But as far as like reselling major manufacturing products, it's like the market's not there anymore. To
Yeah.
house it and square footage wise and everything, the money doesn't work out.
Okay. And I think you got to double down on what's working, and if that's services for you, then
Hmm.
go all in on that. Now, when you
What
say
do you
marine,
what do you focus mainly on, Josh?
like in my day to day,
Uh huh. Like on your in your detailing business?
right now we're getting into film, into window tinting first, and then the plan is to get into paint protection film at the end of this year. Um,
Cool, cool.
but a
Those
majority of our
brands. Uh huh.
well, right now we're carrying our window tint film is ASWF,
Hmm.
um, and the reason why we carried that film is because I'd reached out to pretty much all the big brands, and I got blown off by every single one of them and had a really
Yeah,
bad
this volume is
experience.
crazy right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they were the one person that had good customer service, and a few other people that I had on the podcast had recommended them. They came to me for training too, which was a really big thing.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
But as far as um, I'm also looking at GeoShield. I've heard a lot of really good things about GeoShield for their window tint. So
I'll talk to you more off the record after.
okay, okay, I love that. You say that you're getting into like marine too. Now, are you talking about like paint protection film on marine?
Correct. So it's gonna be paint protection film on the waterline of the hulls and a lot of the interior parts, and also tinting on yachts and stuff is very crucial.
Hmm.
I have a facility that can house all of these boats. So we used to do a lot of boats pre-COVID. We used to do a lot of graphic wraps and stuff. But yeah, there's a big market for the yacht world. And I mean, my company is like half a mile from the Huntington Harbor. So yeah, I like working on boats. It's fun.
I bet a lot of your clients also have a boat.
They all have a boat. Yeah. You're bugging me to start it back up. So I've been in talks with Expel for some time now to try to get this all established. And hence the reason why I'm clearing out one of my warehouses with all the retail products, is so I can make a good clear space, very nice presentable area, so that the boats will look nice in my warehouse.
Hmm.
So yeah, I have about 7 or 8,000 square foot dedicated just for the boats. That's upcoming.
Wow. Do you ever plan on doing like jets in there too?
The jets and stuff is kind of tricky. I used to do it back in the days, but we have to go to the hangars, and doing a mobile service takes a lot of time away from the shop. So on things like that, I have a lot of colleagues that I work with that does mobile. So those, like I said, keep your friends like happy. I'll just refer those out. But usually, like I like to do everything in house. Remember, I told you the first thing I want to do was get away from mobile.
Yeah.
So why would I go back to mobile? I wouldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, yeah. And you said you had a boat yourself. What kind of boat do you have?
I had a Mastercraft, and I had a couple of like 22-footer wake boats. Yeah, I had just had an RV, but I just sold it. My wife gets RV car sickness. Everything you
Yeah.
plan as a husband and a good father doesn't work out the way you want it to.
It
Yeah, you have
was a
this
good
amazing
idea.
vision of like, oh, RV family trip, like my wife and kids. Like the moment we stepped on, like 30 minutes in, my wife's like throwing up. I'm like, all right, cool. It's not happening. Yeah, but I do race a
Yeah.
lot. I track a lot, and yeah,
Do you have any
yeah.
cool cars?
Dang, I don't know if you, I don't know, definition of cool car. I used to have a lot of cars, but
What's your favorite car?
my favorite car would be my '94 Supra, Toyota Supra. That one I haven't sold out of all my collections. I haven't sold that one yet. I just bought a 2013 BMW M5 6 speed as my family commuter, and then yeah, I don't know. I have Raptors, NSXs. I've had it all. I've had a good couple of years of good run. Yeah. But I'm a businessman, so if somebody offers me money, I'm going to sell it.
Yeah. Do you run
How about
most of your
yourself? What do you
cars?
drive?
I just drive a Colorado, Chevy Colorado.
That's not a bad car.
I'm trying to be disciplined. I want a cool car, but I think right now it makes the most sense to put that money back into the business and not into a vehicle.
That's true. That's true. Colorado's cool, especially where you're living right now. One of my favorite car that I regret selling is my Raptor. Yeah, that was
Those
like
are
I had.
awesome.
Yeah, I had a Raptor on 37s. It was fun. It was like the family trip. But then I sold that and then got the RV, and then that turned out to be the biggest mistake. And then the RV's gone now. And then my wife took all the money.
I
Yeah. Are you
have a
married?
client that no, I'm not. I'm single.
Cool. Then you
Which
you can be really rich then.
yeah, that's what all my buddies that are married tell me.
Dude, go for it, dude. Yeah.
Well, I have a client that he just bought a brand new Raptor, and I was driving that around last week. And like he'll just like trade me out cars for the week. It's hilarious,
And the new
and
Raptor is awesome.
yeah,
I
it's
just
so
finished the
comfy, man.
Yeah, it is. I just finished the Raptor R. I don't know if you saw my page, but we just finished the Raptor R for Ben. That was fun. $150,000 for a truck. You can't take that off roading, dude. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and you better wrap the whole thing in PPF.
Yeah, we wrapped the whole thing in stealth PBFs. Yeah, it's
What
cool.
does
You
something
just
like that cost?
for full stealth, we usually charge around 13.
13 grand.
Yeah,
And do you put ceramic coating on top of that?
if the customer asks for it, but on stealth, I do recommend it. It's a little bit easier to maintain. I think it feels like the stealth PPF has a little bit less of a self healing tendency, and it does
Yeah,
stain a little bit more than the clear. So yeah, but throwing a ceramic coating on top of PPF is so easy. We don't overcharge like a lot of shops do. Just throw it on there. Also, if the film holds up longer and it looks better, then it's better for our returning customer too. So like like, oh, Alex did this job, and then the film's holding up better rather than like trying to make a quick buck here and there. Yeah.
yeah. How often do you feel like your clients are getting new cars?
Damn, I don't know. Some of my clients get a new car like every 3 weeks. And then I would say 50% of my clients, like, so we have our lease car clients, which is every 2 to 3 years. And then we have our car collectors that buys a new car like every 3 to 6 weeks. And then we have our long-term clients that buys a car like like us general public, maybe every
Yeah.
5 years or so. But then if you've been around for 15, 16 years, that like the 10,000, 20,000 clientele you build up over the years is going to have perpetual like revolving time frames. So it's pretty consistent after that. But you have to make it through that hurdle, like that journey, because you're going to have like dead times in the beginning. But that's when you're best part you're single, and yeah, there's no expenses. Like right now, my wife and kids are probably blowing money right now as we speak on something. Right now, you're having zero expenses, so you're making money right now as we speak. I'm losing money right now as we speak. So yeah,
That's so funny. So, um, yeah, whenever you ceramic coat on top of a PPF, do you notice that it doesn't last quite as long as it would on paint?
it doesn't last long at all. I would say like a year or two that I've seen. I think it's just kind of a booster. Yeah, it's like because I mean you got to understand the ceramic coating is designed to bond with the clear coat, not the upper coat of like urethane. So I think it's urethane and then whatever top coat that they use. So it makes sense, but it's a good way
Hmm.
to keep it like hydrophobic. It does keep it a little bit more like resistant to staining and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't I haven't seen ceramic coating stick too long to PPF. It's not definitely for sure not as long as on a properly applied on clear coat for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned staining. One thing I see on some of our clients' cars that have PPF is they it does etch pretty easy from like bugs
Hmm.
on the front end.
Uh,
And maybe it's
it's
a
hit
bad
or miss.
brand. I don't know what brand it is on there.
It's because like bugs, they're actually like acidic. So um, like if you leave the bug on there, like it's like the bugs are like protein. So you take off bugs, but like you can take it off with degreaser, right? Because it's like all fat molecules. Um, so when that happens, like I haven't really seen too much bug etching on PPF. I think it might be a specific brand. I know some brands are more sustainable. I mean, if the installer was wrong and he overstretched the film too long, then the film gets too thin and it kind of resists. It kind of breaks down like the top layer. So you can't
Hmm.
like overstretch the film because the film gets too thin. But from my experience, I haven't had issues with that. I think PPF does a. I don't want to be like all kissing ass and stuff, but yeah, PPF so far hasn't given me too much trouble when it comes to bug etching or things like that. But I've been using Expo for like a long ass time, so
Yeah, it could be the brand.
yeah. But the bugs, like when you don't have PPF, bugs is it ruins your bumper. You know how like paint on bumper is like a lot softer than when it's
Yeah.
on aluminum. It's like a lot thinner. So yeah, like if you see it, it'll like if you hit a June bug or something like that, like a beetle, it'll break the paint for sure on a bumper. But yeah, I haven't seen that. The only time I've seen like PPF get really etched badly is like one of my clients. A lot of my clients who does like high speed like rallies and track and stuff. Yeah, it'll tear up the film. Most of the time, it'll save the paint. And yeah, I'll tell the client like if you go high speed, like if you go over a certain speed, um, it etches the film like crazy. Like it pits it all over the place. But that's the sacrificial layer that we talked about. But other than that, I haven't really had too many issues with like bugs and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that's what PPF is. It's like that's like exact word for it. Like somebody told me back in the days, it's a sacrificial layer. I think that's the perfect way of describing PPF. It's just like, because you never want to buy a car with repaint. um, you question that all the time, like why was it repainted? So that's like one thing you want to let the customers know. It's like you don't want to repaint your bumper. Like most dealership will repaint it, but it's questionable. And a lot of the
Yeah.
cars they've been repainted, but if it's paid cash, it's not reported to the Carfax. So just tell them like this is just the sacrificial layer. And if you want to sell it and want to get best value, just pull the film off, and then you can sell the car as really good brand new condition paint, which we've successfully done many times.
Hmm. How many of your clients, I know you mentioned that you kind of have three categories. Like one category is like the people that tr- buy it and drive it for the long term. And then one is like your car collectors. And I forget what your third one that you said was.
Lease.
They lease it. Yeah. Um, Out of those three, like what percentage of your business is split amongst those three types of clients?
Well, I'm in an HB, which is a pretty high, you know, um, we're not a poverty city. We're pretty, the HB is pretty wealthy. But if I have to split it, I would say like one third, one third, one third. there's not that many car collectors. Like, I mean, you got to think about how the general population work. I mean, 1%, right? They're the one who owns all the wealth. So that would be like that. But the 1% resides in certain demographic areas of the state. So, I'm really close to Newport and like a lot of these high income areas. Uh, and if you could lock those clients down, then they're going to be your friends forever. Because once you get their trust, they're not going to go anywhere unless you do something terribly stupid. So yeah, I would say that. And then lease, it just comes and goes. But if you look at the demographics between like the super high exotics versus the lease will always get like the more entry level packages, like per se like a partial front end and like an entry level tint, like carbon tint, right? And then the collector car will always get like a full car PPF, and then they'll get like the Expo Prime XR Plus, like the highest of the highest. So yeah, those all kind of revolve. And but then the hypercars, you don't see as much of it. But well, as far as the money coming in, it kind of makes up for, like, if I do one hypercar, it's going to make up for like six of the lease cars. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like the money balances out that way. So like if we do like a Bugatti Veyron, it's gonna be about the same amount of income as like doing like six Lexus GS 300. So it's kind of like that. So that's how
Now,
I was.
is it as profitable to do a Veyron? Obviously, the
No,
gross.
it's a pain in the butt. I'd rather do 10 Teslas in 2 days than to do one Veyron in a week. Like all day, every day. But it's just a flagship thing. Like, oh, like we've done it, like it's fun to do it. But as far as when it comes to business, like I'd rather do 10 model. I'd rather actually do 100% Tesla. I know there's probably a bit of bad rep, but I'd rather do 10, 20 Teslas all day, every day than to do any type of hypercar. Like when in the beginning, you want to do a lot of hypercars because you want to get your image up and boosted. But like over time, it's like work is work. Your back still hurts. So I'd rather have my back hurt less with a Tesla.
Yeah.
One of the if anybody listens, yeah, they'll understand what I'm saying.
Well,
Do
I
you
feel
understand
like
what I'm saying?
I do 100%. Yeah,
Okay, so
and
even
most
go
of the
ahead.
people I've talked with on this podcast, they all say that like the hypercars, and just like even full body PPF on a lot of vehicles isn't
It's a
as
negative.
profitable as
No.
just doing a front end.
Yeah, the time and the money and the time and like, and also there's like a lot of more room for errors, right? So it's just because in this business is all time. So material is going to be a fixed product of a set expense, but then the time is like something that's uncalculatable. Like something can go wrong at any given time, and then when the time goes bad, or panel goes bad, or whatever, that time I still have to pay my employees that time, and so the room for error is going to justify your profitability, but at the same time the product has to come immaculate. So all of those factors combined, it's a lot of anomalies that's going to be a headache, and last thing you want is headaches. So but full front ends, like you can knock it out in like 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, edge sealed. We have all of our ways to do it, and it's gone. And you can just keep pumping those out. But full body, especially if you do full body, there's a lot of other things that come into handle. Like some of them you have to take off the mirrors, you have to take off panels, you have to take off this, you have to take off the door handles, and all those things are accumulated for. That's like just a lot of time. Full front end, you don't have to take off anything. Like everything's kind of just ready to go. So yeah, I'd rather do like a couple full front ends rather than to do full car, depending on what car it is. And I think most shops would agree with me on that. But you have to do full cars just because if the customer wants it, you just gotta do it. But exotics, it becomes even more crazy because exotics has like sharp corners and it has a lot of intricate designs that's very, very technical. And you don't want to use a kit on a lot of these cars because you don't want to seam it. So you have to figure out how to lay it one into the other. And you have to just wow. And then like Ferraris and stuff like that, for instance, like their paint's really sensitive. So you can't like pull the film off after it's sealed. There's a lot of these things, that rules that you're going to learn over time. It could be a lot of expenses and expensive mistakes that you can make in the past. But as a shop that's been through a lot, you know what to avoid. But yeah, it's just like I agree with all the other shops. I'd rather do a couple more front ends than full cars. We don't mind doing full cars, and especially if it's a cool car, we'll love doing it. But as far as a business mindset, I'd rather just do full front ends all day.
So if you had like a few incidents where like you like messed up like on a Ferrari and then like
Everybody, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody messes it up. They'll hide it. Um, the thing about Ferraris is like if you never worked on a Ferrari before, Ferrari paint is totally different. Especially like the older generation, their paint is super sensitive. Like front bumpers, for instance, even like like we're very confident. Like BMWs, Lexus, whatever, you can pull the film on and pull it off as long as it's original paint. No chance of paint pulling off. Ferrari, there's a high chance of the paint pulling off when it's original paint. So you have one chance to do it. And I think this was back in like 2015. We had I think it was a 458. It was a red 458 Italia, and we put the front on, but we didn't like the edge, how the edge sat, so we pulled it off with the steamer. But like, it's not even the whole bumper; it's just one little paint chip that pulled off on the bumper, and this has pretty much ruined our whole life. So like, it's just things like that, and you learn. Luckily, the client was a regular; he understood, and then we sent it out to a shop of his choice. We repainted it. We apologized. We had to let it dry for 30 days, and we put it back on, and it wasn't an issue solved. But imagine if the client was like unforgiving, then like I think he could have sued us, and then we would have shut down. Like we didn't have money at the time, so there's just things like that you just have to be aware of.
Was that an insurance claim, or did you pay that out of pocket to have it repainted?
No, we had to. I had to pay the body shop like a monthly fee. I'm not gonna file. You can't file an insurance claim because like you can never get insurance at that address again. So
Yeah,
insurance is a in case shit, and you can't use it.
it's a scam, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. If you use them once, they won't insure you again on the renewal, so you can't use it.
It's hilarious how that works. It's like, why do I even have this?
Oh, it's just yeah, just so you don't get sued. I think insurance is more for when you get sued, not when the damage comes like that.
Yeah, sure. So one little spot. Be careful on those Ferraris when you're peeling them off.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The bumpers are very sensitive.
Do you have any other stories like that? I love hearing stories like this.
Dude, I had a lot. Like, so when you start getting to tinting, make sure you scrutinize the windshield. Um, like even a small speck of like little crack, like when you post heat it, you can just spider web. We had it on the G wagon one time. I think this was like maybe 7, 8 years ago. We didn't see it. The car was used. He's like, oh, you know how clients always say, it's like, oh, the car's brand new. It's immaculate. It's like, okay, it's not new. But anyways, we're tinting it. And G-Wagon, the front windshield is flat. It's flat. So it's like minimal shrinking. So you can understand how much little heat we use to get that film contoured. And then like we put it on and then we're post heating it and then the fucking shit goes. I was like, oh, damn it. And then it's like, and right after like, we called Mercedes. We're like, how much is the windshield? So we're like, oh, it's gonna be like $1,900. And 9 years ago, money, that's a lot of money. And we're like, damn, dad, we're gonna go broke. So we're like, I'm talking to the tinter guys and we're talking to the crew, like everybody pitching like $100 and let's just get it out of the way. The client comes and he's like, dude, what's up with my windshield? I was like, dude, you told me this car was new. And he's like, it's new, but it's not. And then it's just, we have a lot of, if you have a shop for this long, you have a lot of stories like of stuff like this that happens. But then that's another thing. You have to be transparent to your clients. Last thing you want to do is send the car back to your clients and hide it behind their backs and get that fixed, and they find out later. So even though it's like a heart shake and heartbreak, we let the right when it happens, we tell the client like right away, and then make sure you have a lot of cameras in your shop. Two reasons is one is for your protection, and number two is fraud protection. We've had a lot of clients that try to blame us for shit that we didn't do, and so make sure you have a lot of cameras to have all of those evidences. This client tried
Mm-hmm.
to blame us for like a paint scratch on his bumper. When he first came in, you could tell he used like watercolor to mask up his little scuff mark on his S5. And we're like, come on, bro. He's like, dude, the car's brand new. And then we saw it in the camera and we washed it and it rinsed off and the scratch came out. And then he brought his mom and his sister and his dad, like, to prove that, like, oh, this car was new. I was like, dude, the video is right here. So protect yourself at all times, just like boxing.
Wow. That's crazy. So do you make clients sign like a waiver for window tinting now, like specifically on windshields?
Yes, you should have a disclaimer posted clearly in your office, or like a big one, and also make sure they sign the waiver right when they do. You have to do a disclaimer for the glass. Um, yeah, protect yourself
And
for
then also
sure.
for water getting on the computers and stuff on the backside of it, right?
Yeah, Dad, you can do that. The only one that I would worry about is like Audis and BMWs. They have a lot of system in the back. Um, but just bag everything up, and just tuck everything in, and you'll be good to go. Those are all
Yeah.
like beginner moves. Like these days, computers, there's so many computers on every car. Just make sure you prep the surface and everything really well, especially if there's Alcantara dash and stuff like that. Um, just I think prepping before tinting is like the most important. Because water, ironically, is like the worst enemy for interiors. So
Yeah. Hmm. Well, cool. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've gone over an hour now, so we'll probably
that
call
was
it there. But yeah, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
fun.
I hope that being your first one, that it won't be your last.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, I wasn't talking too much. I know my wife says I talk a lot, so if I do talk, so
That's what it's for, man. You're supposed to talk a lot.
yeah, yeah. If you have any other questions for me, just shoot me a call, and then I'll answer your questions for you. I know you're getting your your toes wet in this industry too, so yeah,
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
sounds good. If you ever fly out to California, stop by the shop sometime.
Well, I would love to. Yeah, for sure. I've never been out, so that's something that's on my list of things to do. And yeah, would love to come out there sometime.
Sounds good. It was nice talking to you, Josh.
Thanks, Alex.